There's a specific energetic frequency that six figure and six plus figure business owners operate from that is very different from that trying to make it energy that we might have when we're starting out in business. So today I wanted to walk you through 10 of the qualities that you need to embody in order to stop chasing clients and start attracting wealth. Everybody wants to get to six figures or beyond, but many don't realize that it's not enough to have these ambitions and have those numbers in your mind, that you actually have to become a different person with different belief systems, different habits and attitudes and behaviors in order to allow that amount of money into your experience. So I'm going to go through all 10 of these qualities, and I've classified them into three categories for you. So the first one is habits, then we'll get into attitudes, and then we'll get into values. Okay. So the first quality that separates and defines a six figure or plus business owner is that they move fast. They move faster than everyone else. And that doesn't mean that they're impulsive, but they understand that time is money. They understand that, yeah, I can put it off. I can wait for the perfect moment. I can delay. I can stall. But at the end of the day, what that means is all that time that I'm waiting, installing, and delaying, I'm missing out on opportunities. I'm missing out on sales. So as they know, I need to arrive at a decision as quickly as possible. I need to take action as quickly as possible so that I can keep things rolling, right? So you're not going to see six figure or more business owners overthinking, flip flopping around their decisions, or waiting for that perfect moment, right? This illusion that there is a perfect time and a perfect moment when everything's going to magically come together in the perfect conditions so that we can move forward. They also realize that any decision you make isn't going to make or break you, right? Like you have to make a decision and then you move forward, and it may work out or not, but spending a lot of time overthinking and deliberating does not by any means ensure that the outcome of that decision is necessarily going to be any better. So they make decisions, they act with certainty, and they take action on those decisions to keep moving forward. The second habit that they have is that they do what they said they're going to do. So if they said they were going to show up for an event or a meeting, they show up for that meeting. They walk their talk. They actively demonstrate a congruence between their words and their actions, right? They're the role models of the kind of professionalism and cooperation that they also expect from their clients and collaborators. They're not the kind of people who are going to check out or drop out because something happened in their life, there's some sort of crisis, and they find a way to make it work. They find creative solutions, right? Like they're often the most flexible and adaptable people in that way because, like, yes, life always happens and things happen. But when you're in business and your business is your income and your livelihood, you can't just drop everything because something happens, right? You have to find a way to make it work. And, I've seen colleagues of mine, for example, show up for meetings while they're sitting in a hospital with a loved one, right? It's not that they're neglecting what's going on in their life, but they're finding a way to, the question becomes not like, how do I abandon everything in my life to show up for my business because that's the only thing that matters? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they're asking themselves, how do I make this work? Like if I need to have an important conversation with someone, or I need to help or support someone, and I also have this commitment around my business, can I say, okay, I'm really happy to talk to you, but can we do that at this particular time, right? They have an ability to set boundaries in their life so that they can prioritize the things that need to happen and still be able to show up and support everyone. Because oftentimes what I see with business owners that are starting out, they have all these big ambitions and aspirations to make a lot of money and have all this impact, but yet in their life, they're making their business their absolute last priority. They're making their day job a priority. They're making their family a bigger priority. They're making all these other things, or their hobbies or whatnot more important, and then their business ends up being at the very, 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 very last priority on the list. And if your business is the last priority and you're not nurturing it, how can you expect it to be what you want it to be, right? The third quality is that they know their numbers. They don't engage in this magical thinking, right? Oftentimes, when we're starting out, we're like, oh, I really want to make $50,000 a month. I really want to make $100,000 a month. But then they don't actually understand how they're going to get there, right? They don't have a strategy and a structure and a plan of how they're actually going to hit those numbers. Six figure and plus business owners, they're always tracking their numbers. They know their conversion rates. They know how much their offers are. They know how much they're selling. They know how much they're spending on expenses, and they know where they're at, so that if they're, it's very important to set number goals as milestones, right? As something to aim for, and that what they're aiming for is something that maybe stretches them a little bit, but it's achievable based on the infrastructure that they have in place in their business. It's not some like fantastical like dream of something that they hope to achieve without actually having a very sober and rational understanding of how this could actually work, right? And yes, there's always room for miracles to happen and things to unexpectedly explode for you. You know, that's always a potential we don't want to deny, but yet you can't count on that because you don't know if and when these things will happen. What you can do is what's within your control, which is to create a predictable structure for yourself and understand how your numbers add up so that you can hit your goals in a way that actually makes sense, right? It actually has to make sense. Okay, literally and figuratively. So now let's get into the section on attitudes. So big earners take total responsibility. And to me, the energy of responsibility is very much synonymous with the energy of power. They're powerful people, that the more money that you make, especially as a purpose-driven, spiritually oriented entrepreneur, that how much you earn is proportional to how much power that you can hold and how much responsibility that you can hold. And this is one of the qualities of a great leader, someone who can take full responsibility for their decisions, for their actions, as well as their inactions, for their emotional reactions, for their moods and behaviors, rather than blaming other people or circumstances for their situation. They're able to put their ego aside and receive feedback so that they can grow. And that's part of taking responsibility as well, is realizing that I'm not always right. Like I take responsibility for the fact that I have areas where I need to grow, and I'm willing to learn and open my mind to getting feedback and to learning new things so that I can improve. The next quality, which is quality number 5, is they're resourceful problem solvers. And it's interesting that the word resourceful or resources is also synonymous with money and wealth. So the way I think of it is the more resourceful you are, the more wealthy you are. And this goes in tandem with this aspect of taking total responsibility, that when we are resourceful problem solvers, we look at the opportunities in front of us. We see possibilities. We explore how we can approach a situation, how we can figure it out. Right? They're good at figuring things out, asking themselves, okay, rather than saying like looking at the circumstances as they are and saying, that's not going to work, or I don't like that. Instead, they say, okay, how can I make this work? They start with the decision and then they say, okay, if this is my decision, how do I make it work? And that's the essence of power. So they don't fixate on problems or fight for their limitations. They don't fight and argue over wanting to stay small and wanting to have things the way they want to have them. They're determined and focused and actively seeking a way of moving forward rather than giving up whenever adversity or challenge or setbacks or something inevitably shows up, because it will. The 6th quality is that they maintain a positive and constructive attitude. people who earn a lot of money in my experience, among especially in the coaching industry and personal development industry, are among the most beautiful, generous, service oriented, loving, compassionate people I have ever seen. That they have such a positive and constructive attitude. They see problems as challenges. They take every experience, every failure and setback as a growth opportunity, right? That it's only just setting them up for their next level and preparing them for the next level. They don't judge themselves and they don't judge other people. They're here to lift people up and to help support everyone to create win-win scenarios. So they understand that it's not what life brings to you that matters, but how you handle it and what you do with it that really counts at the end of the day. So maintaining a positive attitude throughout. So lastly, let's get into the final category, which is the category of values. So 6+ figure earners value discipline over drama and distractions. So that means that, we all have emotions, we all have an emotional body, and we go through feelings. But this is also a spiritual wisdom too, that our emotions don't define us. Our emotions are not who we are. And if you actually sit and witness your emotions, you'll realize emotions are always changing, right? Our moods are always changing. So if we make our decisions based on something that's changing, we're not making a decision from a solid, grounded place, right? Our decisions and our actions have to come from something deeper. So they understand that they need to be present with and acknowledge their emotions, but they don't let their moods and their emotions stop them from doing what they need to do. They don't make their decisions or take actions from a place of moodiness or, having a bad attitude. It's normal to have things like that come up, but they're not acting from that place. They're not making decisions from that place. Because when you make decisions when you're feeling down, everything is a no, right? We just shut down and avoid doing anything, right? When we're in fear or limitation or feeling bad about ourselves or disappointed or whatnot. And similarly, when we're really high and we're really in an ecstatic state, our tendency is to say yes to everything, including saying yes to too many things and biting off more than we can chew, right? So 6-figure plus earners understand that emotions are part of life, but they don't let their emotions run their business. And similarly in sales conversations, right? If somebody gets emotional or they're trying to kind of get sympathy, they don't get sucked into that because they understand that decisions and truth come from a deeper place than our emotions. They don't also, and along those lines, they don't also drown in feelings of failure, and they're able to be resilient because they learn how to not take things personally. They learn to not sweat the small stuff and to keep moving forward, because at the end of the day, it leaks your energy and it leaks your time. And along those lines too, this discipline instead of drama and distraction. Like, how do I stay on track even when I don't feel like it, right? Part of this point around what they value is that they don't make decisions based on their feelings, right? That there is a deeper level of commitment and focus that's there. And that's not, and again, part of that is not saying that we're dismissing or ignoring or denying or suppressing emotions, but that we're not letting them be the boss of our business, right? We're not letting our moody self be the one in charge of our business, and not allowing distractions and things like that to get in the way of the things that we need to prioritize and do. So number 8, they value and invest in support. So business, and this is a common phrase or proverb in business, you have to spend money to make money, right? 6+ figure earners know that while they could be a solopreneur, you can totally hit 6 figures or have a multi 6-figure business as a solopreneur, but that doesn't mean that they don't invest in support, and most importantly, having a mentor that can help them get to their next level. Because they understand, again, time is money, and that they can get where they want to be in terms of the growth and impact that they want to have in their business faster by investing in support. And even though, yeah, it costs money to do that, that it ends up paying for itself exponentially many times over. And that's kind of an attitude that you have to look at when you're a business owner. You have to ask yourself, sorry, I have something in my eye. Anytime that when you're looking at an investment, you have to ask yourself, okay, well, yes, this is an investment. And how is this going to ultimately pay off? Like, how is this ultimately going to give me a profit? Because if you're going to get a bigger return than what you invested initially, then it's absolutely worth it, right? But otherwise, you end up paying in a different way. Rather than paying in terms of money, you end up paying in terms of time. You end up paying in terms of struggle and making a lot of mistakes, and having it take a lot longer to get off the ground. And so that's a choice that you have to make. But six-figure earners understand, again, they move fast. So they want to get the support. They want to avoid the mistakes. They want to get success more quickly and easily. So they invest in support, whether it's around mentorship, always having a mentor, always having someone that's holding them to a bigger potential than they would hold for themselves, and giving them the tools and guidance that they need. And or also having support in terms of maybe having a team, like a VA or someone that they can delegate some of the busy work to, so that they can focus on what they need, the most important leveraged, income-driven activities that are going to keep the business growing faster and easier. So they value investing in support. Number 9, they value their time, energy, and resources. So and this theme has kind of come up all along, but what I wanted to emphasize here is there's a level of discernment, right? They're looking at any decision or opportunity in terms of, is this worth my time? Is this worth my energy? Is this worth my financial investment or my resources, right? And they're being very discriminating and discerning about putting their time and energy into things that are worthwhile, right? They're not wasting their time like having, I don't know, 1 or 2 hour long conversations for, a coffee date with someone, right? They don't have time to spend on things that are not actually translating into growth and progress in the business. So they're being very strategic about the choices of how they use their time and energy. And they evaluate, and part of that is also evaluating what's working and what isn't working in their business. Like what strategies are working right now, which things are not working very well, and how can I evaluate, based on the evidence and the data that I have, how to use my resources more effectively, or how to improve things so that I am getting the best effect possible and the best result possible. And then finally, last but not least, the 10th quality that differentiates hobbyist business owners from those that are making 6+ figures is that they're driven. And I don't want you, when you hear the word driven, you're like, oh, she's talking about this hyper masculine pressure, pushing, forcing, got to get it done. Sure, there's a lot of that in the world, but that's not what I mean by that. When I say driven, I mean that there is you could call it devotion, okay? His devotion is driven. Devotion is driven by this commitment and this enthusiasm and this consistency around showing up in the way that you need to in order to keep having that impact and continuing to grow. So there's this hunger for impact. There's this motivation that comes from inside that, okay, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to show up even when it's scary, uncomfortable, and difficult, which is inevitable that all of us at any stage of business, in order to grow, in order to hit your next income level, you have to do things that are scary, uncomfortable, and difficult, because that's the edge of your comfort zone, right? That's where you step out into a higher potential and increase your capacity for more. So you can't avoid that. Hobbyist business owners tend to favor their comfort and convenience, whereas business owners that are creating growth and income and success in their business are ones that are willing to do things that are scary, uncomfortable, and difficult so that they can continue to serve their mission and do what they're here to do. And the fun part is that success is really addictive, right? Like once you start breaking through that fear barrier and doing those things that you found uncomfortable, not only do those things start to immediately become easier and they're not so scary anymore, but that this experience of success is addictive. And the more success you have, the more you crave that success, and that kind of motivates you to keep going, and then it becomes hard to settle for anything less, right? Like once you've hit a certain income level, you're like, hey, I love this standard of life, I don't want to compromise that in any way, right? I want to keep the ball rolling. So actually, I'm going to recap one more time just to summarize. So the 10 qualities that differentiate hobbyist business owners from six-figure plus earners: they move faster, they do what they say they're going to do, they know their numbers, they take total responsibility, they're resourceful, creative problem solvers, they maintain a positive and constructive attitude, they value discipline instead of drama and distraction, they value and invest in support, they value their time, energy, and resources, and they're driven. So of these 10 qualities, I would love to hear in the comments below, which one is the biggest strength for you? Which one do you really feel, I've got this one dialed in, I can totally embody this quality? And which one is your biggest weakness? Which area do you feel like you have to work on the most in order to get to a higher level of income in your business? So thank you so much for watching today. If you found this video valuable, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more tips and insight into how to grow your service-based soul-led business. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.